Welcome to the Native Edge Institute here in Colorado. My name is Yvette Fielder, and I am a program director with the National Center, and I'm an enrolled member of the 3 affiliated tribes and descendant of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. Today's morning panel, we will have Sol Ibarra. Sol is the Business Outreach Coordinator for the City and County of Denver's Purchasing Department. She is responsible for the outreach, promotion, and education on how to do business with the City and County of Denver. Sol has worked for nonprofits, state governments, higher education, small businesses, and a Fortune 500 company. Sol is an experienced professional with over 15 years experience in business development, program and project management, public relations, marketing, community outreach, and procurement. She holds an international business degree with a specialization in marketing from the San Diego State University. And Gloria currently serves as a small business program manager for the Division of Small Business Opportunity, DSBO, at the City and County of Denver. In her position, Gloria develops and manages programs and events to connect small minority women-owned businesses to contracting opportunities with the city. Prior to joining the City and County of Denver, Gloria held positions at Colorado State University, the University of Denver, and interned for the U.S. Department of State in Washington, D.C. Gloria received her BA in Political Science from the University of Northern Colorado and went on to complete her master's at the University of Denver. We also have Mr. Nathan Jones, and Nathan is a graduate of the Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota, with a BA degree in Business Administration, Hospital Administration, and Music. He began working for the City and County of Denver in 1989 in the Contract Administration Office, where he assisted in bidding all construction contracts that built Denver International Airport. Nathan transferred to the DIA in 1994 and helped build the Contracting and Procurement Office. He retired from the City and County of Denver in 2015 and began working for the City of Aurora in a similar capacity in April of 2017, where he is a procurement supervisor in the purchasing section. So these are the folks that small businesses are always trying to get in touch with, right?
My name is Sol, and I'm going to try to do a quick overview on how to do business with the City and County of Denver. One of the things that we talk about is we cover 5 steps on how to do business with the City and County of Denver. One of them is, the first step is, to be ready. What makes you ready to do business with the City and County? Because if you take a look really quickly here, there are a lot of different agencies and departments within the City and County. So you want to think about, what is it going to take for me to be ready to provide a service or a good to the city to maybe 2 or 3 of these agencies? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the capability? Am I going to be ready to fulfill a 3-year contract or an emergency contract or an on-call contract? So those are some of the questions that you would have to ask yourself. And so in order to get ready, we also need to do some research. Within that research, you want to make sure that you understand, what agencies are buying my good or service. When was the last time that they purchased it? And when will they be purchasing it again, the next go around? Something else you want to think about is, who are they buying it from? Who's my competition, or who could I partner with also? And then the other thing is, what can I bring to the table that maybe the next go around I will be able to fulfill that contract or get awarded that project? And then also the last thing, do you want to work with that particular department or agency, making sure that your business model aligns with their mission and statement. I don't know if everybody is aware of BidNet. Hopefully you are all registered, but there's a lot of different agencies and public agencies, entities, municipalities that use BidNet to advertise all of their solicitations. The city is no different. We put all of our solicitations onto this Rocky Mountain e-purchasing system. And so within this, You will also be doing some research to find out which agencies are posting their solicitations on here and who got awarded the contract. When will it be up for a resolicitation? So take note of that. I will say that the BidNet, it is free to register as a vendor. So once you register, you can take a look at who has all of their solicitations advertised on there. You can download all of the documentation. You can do additional research within it. But if you want to have the system actually send you notices of the solicitations that match your NAICS codes, that's where you would pay the additional, yearly fee, and so you would have that service. But please make sure that when you're registering, you don't need to pay for it. That's one of the questions that I get a lot, because it tells them that, well, it's telling me to pay and you said it was free. So just want to make sure. For this list, these are all the different agencies that use BidNet. So these are the main agencies that will be putting their solicitations onto BidNet. So if you want to make or do some research on these particular departments, these are the ones that you're going to be looking at. After reading through the solicitations, or that's one of the things that you want to look at, because when you're reading through it, you're going to find out, what are the requirements that were asked from that solicitation. Insurance requirements, any kind of bonding that they asked for. What, in terms of the evaluation criteria, would I be able to, put a proposal together or put a bid together, and will I be able to fulfill that? Those are some of the things that you want to take into consideration when you're reading through that solicitation. If you are looking at one and, it doesn't make sense to you in terms of the scope of work, make sure you reach out to that buyer that's listed on that solicitation. I will tell you that there is a time frame of when you can contact the buyer by a certain time. So you want to get your questions in before that date. And then also make sure that once you ask the question, they will post the addenda of all the questions that were asked. There might be a question that you didn't think about that, is on there. And so you want to make sure that you go back and look at that addenda to see which questions were asked, what the answers were. So there you can craft your response to that proposal within using those answers. And then at the very end, I will tell you that, within BidNet, they tell you, who requested the solicitation documents. They will put on there who was awarded that particular project. I will tell you that one of my buyers said, Sol, sometimes I just get too busy. I don't put, who received the award, but they can always call me. So I want to tell you that if you don't see who was awarded that contract, make sure you can go back into the solicitation and contact that buyer, and they can tell you who was awarded that particular project. Because even if you don't get, that particular project, there might be some kind of partnership or subcontracting opportunities for you to contact that, the winner of that project. And so general services. We procure all of the goods and services for the city and county of Denver. This includes the airport. Their airport does, have their own city over there, it seems like. But we are still responsible for purchasing their goods and services. Also with the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, they do a lot of the construction part for the city and county, but we still purchase all of the goods and services. So when you think of, purchasing, it's citywide of what we're going to be buying. And so what does the city buy? In terms of, thinking, well, I wonder if they buy my product, you will be surprised at what we buy and how often. And this is just a, short list of things. You can always give me a call. I do get phone calls and people that ask, well, what how can I fit in within the city? How can I sell my product? And so if I don't know something right away, we do have a list of all of our different buyers that are on our website. And so within each of their names and contact information, you'll find what department they buy for or any particular good or service. If your service or good is not listed on there, give me a call, shoot me an email, and I will find out for you. Also, depending on what it is that you're selling, we'll see which department you would fit in so that you are reaching out directly to that department. Do we have any consultants in the room? Okay, so for professional services, consulting, this is a little bit different because as a consultant would have to deal or reach out to the departments that you would like to do business with directly. They are the end user. They know what it is that they need from you. So it's something that you would have to be reaching out to. If you cannot, find the correct name or, contact information, you can also reach out to me and I will be able to connect you with that particular department. But, it's something that is going to be, the contract would be directly with that particular department. That's just the difference for professional services. And so this is a list of our buyers. I've had meetings with them in terms of what's the best way for a business to get in contact with you. Because we're still in a hybrid, model of being in the office and working remotely, email right now is still the best way to get in contact with people. And so I would highly suggest, you reach out to them and they may not reach or get back to you right away, but I would definitely follow up. Make sure you send them your capability statement, explain to them why you would want to do work with the city. Or if there's a particular contract in mind, I would refer to that particular contract after you've done your research on BidNet on any particular project that had already been awarded. And then really quickly on our procurement methods. For anybody, I hope everybody accepts credit cards. We have our P cards. So anything under $2,000, it's just a transactional credit card transaction under $2,000. It's for a good. So no reoccurring charges. If they're buying a good, you cannot also purchase the service attached to that good. So that's the only challenge with P cards. And then we go into our open market, which is $10,000 or less. With this $10,000, they only need one quote to, they pick up the phone, you provide this service or product or service to me? Yes, I can, and that's what it is. Within this, I would also suggest that you're talking to the departments directly because they're going to be working with the buyers. But if the department says, hey, I've spoken to a few people and, they can provide this product or service, the buyer is most likely going to say, well, if they've already spoken to them, I'm going to see what the quote looks like, and then they can go from there. Depending on if that quote satisfies what they're looking for, they're going to be going with that particular quote that the department gave to the buyer. Then we're going into our informal procedure, which is between $10,000 and less than $50,000. These are, they require 3 quotes. So again, you're still wanting to work with the department to make sure that they have your information. Also with the buyers, if they've worked with other companies and they have different contacts as well. But they need 3 quotes for that particular threshold. And anything over the $50,000, it's going to be advertised on BidNet. It'll have a evaluation criteria or a bidding. For bids, we all know it's lowest price, so those are the differences there. I do want to cover our covered goods and services ordinance. I'm sure Gloria will speak to it a little bit more. But I do want to say that we have a defined pool. And so what this means is for our certified businesses that are certified with the City and County of Denver, they are in our database. And so when we go to look through this database and we're looking for a particular NAICS code, we have to have 6 businesses within that NAICS code that can provide that particular good or service. If there's 6 or more, that's going to become our defined pool, which means that only those businesses that are in that NAICS code are going to be given the information for the solicitation or for the bid. I will tell you, there was one instance where it was for videography. There was 11 certified vendors. 6 vendors actually submitted a proposal, and 4 of them received a contract. So it's a great opportunity, to make sure that you are certified within the City and County of Denver. I will tell you also that there was another bid where there was 6 vendors and nobody submitted a proposal. So, depending on what they were doing, business-wise, maybe they had too much work. I don't know why nobody submitted a proposal. And then you move into services for over $250,000. There will be a goal attached to that particular project. The lowest goal that I've seen has been 3%. The highest goal that I've seen has been 30%. So depending on what the actual project is, it'll be there will be a goal attached to it. And then if anybody is wondering how to get certified, Gloria's going to cover that too. But they do have monthly certification trainings. And so you can register for the monthly, that one that's coming up in May. And really quick, I know that, Derek mentioned about networking. We do have a few events that happen. Bridging the Gap is our quarterly event. And so we invite different agencies and departments to provide a forecast for the upcoming quarter as to what's going to be available. And so this is something that I encourage everybody to attend so that you understand, or you're getting ready to make sure that, if something's going to be coming up, you're getting ready to make sure that you either can do the job, ask questions about it, what's it going to take, what are the requirements. The Construction Impairment Initiative, even though it says construction, it's for everybody. And this is it's similar to Bridging the Gap, but it gives you a more in-depth look at a particular project or a city department. We recently had a presentation from the airport on what they're doing. And then the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, they have a monthly event, and it's called Bagels in Business. I like their setup because, they bring in their project managers and they speak to what they're doing. So if you want to speak to specifically to a project manager on a project that they're discussing, that's a really great time to do it. And again, they're monthly. And then our Economic Development Office, they actually offer these sessions on coffee and conversations, or the nuts and bolts of starting a business. The coffee and conversations are interesting because they bring in a different, partner within the city or an organization, and they tell you about what they're working, how they're working, any kind of resources that you may not be aware of. And these are quick 45-minute sessions that you can talk to people, network with other businesses as well. And then, of course, the Denver Airport, they have a great, events that happen monthly as well. Taking Flight, I just attended that one. And so you also do a breakout session within the different upcoming opportunities, and you can ask specific questions for those different procurements that are going to be coming up. And then the Meet the Primes, they differ within, each time that they provide them. There was one for the construction. Also, they have a great newsletter, the Denver Airport. I would also sign up for that because it gives you the rundown of their current opportunities, upcoming opportunities, and their events. And then I do a how to do business with the city. I know I did a really quick one, but the one that we hold is about an hour long, and so we dive a little bit more into the whole research part of how to do business with the city. And then one of the other things that I offer is our newsletter. And so remember I showed you the different, I think there was like 8 different departments that use BidNet. My newsletter puts together all of the departments. If they have a solicitation available, you'll be notified whether it's new or if it's still open. But that's a bi-weekly newsletter, so you get an idea of what's coming up and when it's due. And that is it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Gloria.
Thank you so much for having me here this morning, and I'm excited to tell you guys about what we do as a division of Small Business Opportunity. And we are actually housed under Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. So in the City and County of Denver, there's many agencies. Sol's my counterpart in Department of General Services. I'm under Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. So within our division, we have 5 other areas that include Dyspo. We have our Workforce Services Unit. They help connect people to jobs. They help organizations that are looking to staff. We have a business development section, and Sol covered a couple of their events. They do the Coffee with the Entrepreneurs. They are heavily involved in Denver Startup Week. They help retain global businesses, and so they're boots on the ground as well. We also have our Neighborhood Equity and Stabilization team, so they are the ones that are providing resources to communities that are, facing displacement or issues of gentrification. And then we also have us, Dyspo. And so I'm here to give you guys an overview of what we do, how we operate, and what we do to help small minority women-owned businesses. I always like to start off by reading our mission statement. And so Dyspo works to be the bridge that promotes and improves the participation and engagement of small businesses through the creation and implementation of programs, thereby achieving an equitable Denver economy. And so how do we do this? We have an ordinance. So we are authorized by executive order, the mayor's executive order. And so our governance allows us to operationalize our local programs. And since the city is also a direct recipient of federal funding, through the USDOT, we also operationalize a federal program, and that's also known as the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. So our governance allows us to prevent discrimination, promote equity, and maximize opportunity for certified firms within the city as they pursue and attain work on various projects with our agency partners. So the city's huge. I know Sol just listed out a whole bunch of agencies, but Dyspo, we work primarily with 5. So we work with our Department of Transportation Infrastructure. That also includes the Elevate Bond Program, and they just had a big announcement of millions of funds coming down to do a lot of projects in the city. And that also includes our National Western Center. I don't know if you all have been down there, but it's transformed tremendously. And so we also work with Parks and Rec. We work with General Services, including the purchasing. We also work with our arts and venues, and we also work with the airport. And so these are our 5 program areas within Dyspo. So we have our certification. So that is usually the first step for small businesses that want to pursue work with the city and county of Denver. We highly encourage anybody that, wants to do work on a city project or wants to offer a good or service to start that process by attending one of our monthly webinars. And Sol just told you when that one is. It's on May 10th. And it's a great class because it really shows you what you need to do to get the process going. It can be very arduous in terms of getting your paperwork together, but it's definitely something that you need to think about. You have to make sure your documents are in order. You need to understand the work that you perform, understanding NAICS codes, et cetera. So if you are interested in being certified, please take the certification class. Then we get into our outreach and strategic development, and that's the area that I oversee. So when it comes to connecting small businesses to the city, understanding opportunities, coming to our outreach events, getting connected, getting involved in technical assistance programs, getting involved with trade associations. That's the area I oversee. So I serve as a navigator. And then we have our contract participation goals section. So we set small minority women-owned business goals on projects that are on city land or funded by city dollars. So we set goals, small minority women-owned business goals. And so we make sure that these big primes are utilizing small businesses on their projects. And so our office oversees that. So we set these goals. We work with our project managers to make sure that these goals are set. And so we have a compliance and forensics team. They're the ones that audit these projects. They're the ones that make sure that small businesses are being utilized. They're the ones that deal with any payment disputes. And we also have our defined selection pool, which Sol spoke about. And so our division works with the airport, general services, DOTI. So we work to identify projects that can be unbundled, these larger projects that can be scaled down for small minority women-owned businesses to prime the work. So they would be the ones that are taking on those projects. And so we've had some great success with this. There was a janitorial contract that was unbundled. And so we're looking to do more. We're looking to identify these projects. We want the agencies to come to the table and make sure that they're unbundling these projects. So there's a lot more to come, and then they are found on BidNet if they are where they're advertised. And so I'm just going to speak a little bit about our Dyspo certification program, because that's a critical piece. And so we have 6 different types of certifications. And so certification applies to socially and economically disadvantaged businesses based on ownership, operation, control, independence, and size. And so it typically takes about 45 to 90 days to get certified, depending on your paperwork. And we have someone that reviews the applications when they come through, making sure that it's complete. If there are any issues, it does get returned. We always advise, people that are doing the certifications to go to our resource partners like PTAC or SBDC. They have advisors there that can assist with compiling paperwork. So certification is a vehicle. It doesn't guarantee a project. It's basically something that we encourage small businesses to utilize when they're looking to do work with the city. And so these are the 6 different types of certification that we have. Our local program is the MWBE, Minority Women-Owned Business Enterprise, our SBE, our EBE, and our Small Business Enterprise Concessionaire, and that's for airport concessionaire projects. And then we have the DOT federal program, which is based off the Code of Federal Regulations, which is the DBE and the ACDBE. So those are our 6 different types of certification. And when people go for start their applications, they can apply for more than one. I always encourage small businesses to check the box on more than one certification, because you don't want to pay additional for certifications. Just get it all in there. And so once you're certified, you get listed in our small business directory. It's our small business certification and contract management system. So this is where our prime contractors will look for small businesses. They'll look up by NAICS code. They'll look up by keywords of what the types of work that's performed. So when they're assessing or they're trying to meet a goal, they will go through this database and look for a small business. This is a great tool. It's accessible by anybody. So even if it's a private company looking for an MWBE or DBE, I always encourage them to take a look at our small business certification website. So it's a handy tool. We've cleaned it up a lot, so it's very user-friendly, easy to use. And so I'm just going to speak a little bit about my area and what we do to help small businesses get connected with the city. And so Sol spoke about our Bridging the Gap to Success outreach events. Those are held quarterly. I'm hoping to get one started hopefully next month. It's a great event if you want to meet with the purchasers, and you want to meet with city agency representatives from DOTI or National Western Center. We've hosted them virtually this last couple years, but I'm really hoping to bring them back to in person, because it's a great way to learn about what's happening in the city. I also like to have a panel. We have a panel of small business owners who have had success working with the city, and so they share their keys to success at this event. And then we also do our CEI meetings. I coordinate those monthly meetings. And so we actually changed the name of it, and it's going to be called the Dyspo Equity and Empowerment Council, because construction wasn't really, we want to make sure that we represent the small businesses in our community. So it's not just about construction, it's about professional services, it's about goods and services. So we also partner on community events. So if you are a part of an organization and would like an overview of how we operate, I'm happy to do that. Sol and I, we get requests a lot to come out to community to speak about what we do. We also serve on community boards. We just want to make sure that, people understand what we do as a division. And we also have a weekly e-blast that we send out every week. And so I would encourage all of you to grab my card. I have some flyers here as well to get listed on this distribution list so that you can receive all the information about what's happening with our city events and with our community partner events as well. And so once a firm gets certified, the next question is, well, how do I get a job? How do I grow my capacity? And so we really focus on helping small businesses understand what it takes to work for the city. When I came on in 2018, one of my charges was developing a mentor protege program. And mentor protege is designed for a larger prime or a larger MWBE who's had success working on these larger scale projects to take on a smaller MWBE and help them develop their capacity. And so we launched a pilot program last year, and what's unique about our program is a mentor and a protege have to apply to the program together. So they have to know each other, and they have to develop a plan of what they're going to do. And so the city developed another layer by assigning each of these selected teams to a city agency, so that they can get another layer of educational and networking support. So this was a pilot. We did it last year amid COVID. We had 6 teams that were selected for the program, 6 fantastic teams, and they were assigned to our city agency partners. And each of these teams had goals. And so we had, one large company was taking on, an MWBE who needed help with bonding. And so they set a plan of action. They really helped this small business, get to that next level. And because they were partnered with one of the city agencies, they kind of got an inside knowledge of how that agency works so they could better understand what it takes to work for the city. So we just rolled out our second year. We have 6 new teams that are participating, and I'm hoping we'll grow it some more. We have 4 agencies that are involved and hoping to get more agencies involved to help our small businesses as well. We also have a partnership with Hispanic Contractors of Colorado, and they have a wonderful contracting academy and scaling program. And so this is designed for small businesses, who want to work for the city. They have a tremendous program, various courses. They've partnered with Front Range Community College on a lot of these courses, so they have some really strong instructors who understand this industry. And so we encourage our certified firms to take advantage of these courses, and we also offer scholarships for their scaling program. We also have a technical assistance program for firms that were impacted. We have a partnership with the African American Trade Association, and so they've designed some courses to help small businesses that have been specifically impacted by COVID, which I know a lot of firms have been, but this is designed specifically for our certified firms. We also like to, connect with our community partners that are doing tremendous work. We have Connect to Dot has a Leading Edge program. It's a 9-week course, which is great to understand, for firms that want to work in transportation. Joe Cerna, where's Joe? I saw Joe. Yes. Hi, Joe. He's our wonderful resource partner with the US DOT West Central. They have a fantastic bonding education, and they also have a wonderful event called the Transportation and Construction Girls Symposium, which is just a fantastic event to get, girls interested in STEM. So we really like to support their efforts. And then as I spoke about our Dyspo Equity and Empowerment, formerly CEI meetings, and these are held bi-monthly. And typically at each meeting, we like to have updates on Dyspo. So, if we have certification updates, we'll present them there. We like to have our city agencies come and present on initiatives that they're working on. A couple months ago, we had the airport speak on their Vision 100 and their equity their equity work. We also like to have our city agency partners. Sol has presented at our meetings. We have representatives from the various mega projects like the Convention Center, the Great Hall, the concourse expansions. They'll come and they'll give updates on what opportunities are available for small businesses. We also like to invite our community resource partners to come and give an overview of what the resources that they provide. And we are also forming new subcommittees that are going to be led by people in the community. So this is an advocacy group. They're going to be working to provide recommendations directly to our director on how to improve access for small minority women-owned businesses. So that's going to be rolling out. If you can attend the meeting, I highly encourage you to. It's virtual right now. Hopefully we'll bring that back to in-person, but I have plenty of cards. If you can give me your card, I'm happy to add you to our distribution. And so here are our contacts. We are led by Adrena Gibson, and she's been at the helm for about 3 years now. She's done tremendous work with our division. We have myself. We also have an assistant director of capacity and certification. We have a compliance supervisor. So we are a small team, probably about 18 people, but we've got a lot of work, and we are definitely passionate about what we do in connecting small businesses to the city.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Nathan Jones. I am a procurement supervisor with the City of Aurora's purchasing office. And it's great to be here with some of my counterparts for the City and County of Denver. I guess I've been away from Denver longer than I thought because I don't recognize any of the names on your list. So, but it's nice to be here with you. And I will say that the City of Aurora does conduct our contracting business similarly to what Denver does. RFPs, bid documents, so we award them. We solicit our projects similarly to the way the City and County of Denver does. So they've already done part of my work presentation, so I don't have to talk about that. But I do have a brief slide show PowerPoint. So with the City of Aurora has a centralized purchasing system for purchases of $25,000 or more. And so there's a website you can go to read our municipal code if you want to read about that on our codes and so forth that enforces our purchasing system, but that's the website address if you want to go out and look at that. So similarly, like the City of Denver, we do have certain thresholds where we have to go out for, we can do sole source purchases, we can just solicit with one firm, we can just go through, we can just do 3 bids, or when we have to do formal solicitations. So ours is 25,000 or greater, if as opposed to Denver, I think it was 50,000. So anything over 25,000, competition is required. Under 25,000, we have more flexibility to, we can just go with a single contractor, single consultant, if we choose to do so, with some variations. Sometimes reasonable pricing cannot be obtained from a vendor, so we'll have to go out for bid. Or a vendor has expressed interest in providing good service, so we can't just give it to one firm if another vendor says they can do the same thing. So we'll have to go out for public solicitation for those type of services, or if the department just wants to go out on the street, or if we decide it's in the best interest of the city to go out and do a formal procurement process for those under 25,000. So those are our thresholds. We also have a P card. Our purchases are 5,000 or less. Yours are 2,000. Yeah. So ours are 5,000. And going back to the top, another purchasing method is if the contract is anticipated to be a purchase of more than 12 months. Let's say if it's of $3,000 per month, that would be $36,000. So that would move us back over the $25,000 threshold. So we would have to go out for public solicitation for that contract. Again, we use bids, RFPs, depending on what kind of project it is, and we have different kind of council reporting requirements. I forgot what Denver's were, but the City Council approved awards of $25,000 or more. And we have 2 different council reporting approval methods. One's what's called a weekly report to council, which we do every Monday. And those are for purchases where we have 3 or more bids, 3 or more proposals, things like that. It's a more informal approval process. We just put it on the weekly report and we send it out to City Council. And if they have any questions, they have a week period to ask questions about it. If we don't receive any questions about it, we can proceed with award after a week. So those are, if it's a over 2 million. If we got less than 3 bids, less than 3 proposals, if it's single source or sole source, those have to be approved by City Council. And we have to do commentaries, what's known as a commentary for those types of projects, which is a pretty formal a document that we present to council for those projects. And we have an array of goods and services, just like Denver does, for that we buy and solicit for with our purchasing office: architectural engineering design, construction, operating and maintenance contracts, elevator maintenance, overhead garage door maintenance, rental uniforms, various services, goods, just anything that the city of Aurora needs as far as any kind of purchasing needs. You already did my talk about BidNet, so the Rocky Mountain e-purchasing system, we also use BidNet for the same purposes, although I will say that when I was at Denver, I developed our own website where we post our own documents on our GI's website on flydenver.com, and they must have just moved towards BidNet recently, because I know when I left they were still utilizing that system, so they must have just moved towards BidNet. So I'm sure most everybody's familiar with BidNet, and it's a pretty robust system. So we also have cooperative purchases, where the city code allows for cooperative purchasing with any agency that allows for it. State agreements and other city and county contracts, regional and national cooperative contracts. We have state of Colorado agreements are used for the following purchases: ammunition, auto glass, computers, office supply, and fleet vehicles. And the city of Aurora does have a small business enterprise participation program for those projects over $250,000. But it is more of an outreach rather than a compliance-driven program. It's not a robust program like Denver has. The city has entered into a contract to conduct a disparity study. The contract is with Given and Strong, so we are conducting a disparity study of our own to see how we might be able to build more of an SBE type program that has more certification. Right now, it's a self-certification process, so it's pretty informal. It's kind of on the honor system, more or less. We do ask our contractors to subcontract at least 10% of the subcontracting dollars to an SBE firm, or conduct what's called a good faith effort, showing that they have attempted to do so. And that's for projects over $250,000. Again, it's a self-certification process. We don't have the resources, personnel-wise, to monitor a larger program. But again, the disparity study might change some of that, where we might get some more funding to build a larger office and be able to conduct more of a certification process.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all your information. You did a wonderful job. Next up, we're going to have the Procurement Technical Assistance Center's Program Services Overview of the 2 PTACs. So we hold a National Center PTAC under our umbrella that serves the Native American population, as well as we have the state PTAC. Stan works under the umbrella here with the National Center. He is a Colorado procurement specialist for the American Indian Procurement Technical Assistance Center from the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. He has served in this role since 2021. Stan currently serves on the board of directors for the Rocky Mountain Indian Chamber of Commerce and previously served as the vice board chair. He also attends and devotes time to nonprofits as a business, marketing, and brand advisor. Stan holds his BFA degree in marketing, communications, and design from Colorado State University. Stan also is a member of the several industry organizations in marketing and design professionals and is an enrolled member of the Cherokee Nation. Carolyn Terrell, joining us, retired from the U.S. Small Business Administration, where she was Supervisory Business Development Specialist, serving 20 years at the Colorado District Office and small businesses in the state. During her tenure with the SBA, Ms. Terrell administered the 8A Business Development Program, the Small Disadvantaged Business Program, the Hub Zone Empowerment Contracting Program, and the Woman-Owned Small Business Development Programs. Currently, Ms. Terrell is a senior consultant with the Colorado PTAC, providing consultation services to companies who aspire to enter or expand their business to government agencies. Ms. Terrell holds a bachelor's degree in business administration management.
I grew up in Colorado. I'm a registered member of the Cherokee Nation. Our PTAC, which is an American Indian PTAC, is sponsored by the National Center. Around the country, there's 6 different American Indian PTACs. We are loosely aligned with how the BIA structures their regions. Our mission is really pretty simple. We work with Native-owned companies, whether individuals or tribal companies, to get them what we call procurement ready. We help them do everything on the front end, from registering, getting certified, and then on the more difficult side, navigating through opportunities, finding teaming. Basically, it's what we call procurement ready. As I mentioned, I only work with Native-owned companies. Carolyn will walk you through her group, which is the state PTAC, and she works with any company, and also some Native companies. Carol and we may go through this together. Okay. It's an overview of what PTACs do. We work with companies anywhere from sole proprietors, which may be purely an individual, to tens of millions of dollars worth of companies. I had a client whose revenue was well over 100 million. This graphic basically just shows you the spectrum and the different types of things we offer. And again, on the far left, you see small and starting out through getting mature and then large primes. Carolyn, do you want to elaborate?
So for this particular slide, and first of all, thank you for having me here. I am Carolyn Terrell with the Colorado PTAC. And it's an honor to be here to present to you today, and then also to present with Stan. So for purposes of this slide, we really try to identify and kind of place the different levels of businesses and how we provide services to them. So if you are a small business, from the PTAC perspective and how we do business and how we assist, for small businesses starting out, we actually provide business development plans, strategies, helping really with that. What does it take to conduct business with governments? So we'll assist with that. We do networking events. We had a great one yesterday, first one in person in Aurora. There was over 100 people there. So we connected them with our partners, our friends out there to do business. City and county was represented as well. It was excellent. We also help with registrations. We all know that if you're entering into the government space, there are several levels that you must register to conduct business with governments. So we assist with that. We will also assist with commerce support, subcontracting opportunities, contracting fundamentals, the A to Z, the end to end on how to conduct business, looking at contracts. What does that mean? We provide bid proposal support, pre and post award administration, also assisting with military and government specifications, different type of drawings, all of the relative and all of the issues that are related to working with governments on the Fed side as well. If you are a small, mature business, we will assist with the cost accounting systems, the different compliance that's required, cybersecurity, which is huge right now, the NIST 800-171. We will also assist with the SBIR, the STTR requirements. I am right now the cohort. Boulder SBDC does have the initiative for the SBIR, STTR program, and I assist and counsel some of those clients as well. So if you're into research, I can assist you with that. For the larger companies, this is where we step into the mentor protege program support. We help with supply chain support, subcontracting, sourcing, as well as training resources. So it's really a big platter, if you will, of various opportunities. And we really look forward to working collectively with Stan to help the Native American community as well.
And I might add, whether you work with the state PTAC or work with the Native American PTAC, our processes are generally the same. We customize our services to the client need. So we will look at your profiles, we will look at your business plan, we will give you ideas on maybe a chronological method, so you're not wasting time and resources. But everything will be tailored based on your business, what you want to accomplish, and we help you get there. So again, back to the Native American PTAC, the red areas are our service areas. We have counselors notated by the yellow stars. So we have a brand new one down in Louisiana, which isn't shown there. So that's our area. The blue areas are the other American Indian PTACs. There are 5 other ones. Again, this kind of maps out the eastern region, the southwest region, and the Navajo BIA region. That's the American Indian PTAC sponsored by the National Center. Now, the difference in terms of, you may be asking, why should I work with a Native American PTAC versus a state PTAC? We generally do the same thing. What we find with our client base is oftentimes we will get specific calls from prime contractors or agencies specifying the need for a Native-owned company. They know that we have access to those companies. It's very important. Many times earlier on the Welcome Committee at the beginning, they mentioned the cultural significance of working with tribally owned companies. That can't be understated. Many times it makes a huge difference in how successful you are, if you can even get your foot in the door. Our network of colleagues around the country work with a great many of the 574 federally recognized tribes, so we can lend you some knowledge about that. Also, specifically the DoD Indian Incentive Program and the Buy Indian Act, which is largely Department of Interior. We help our Native businesses navigate through those opportunities. But that's essentially the difference in terms of working with the American Indian PTAC and a state PTAC. This is our office locations and the people that are within them. If you need any PTAC, this is where you can find them. My contact info, I'll have cards if you need them. And I'll let Carolyn go over Colorado's.
So with that, I will talk a little bit about the Colorado PTAC, the state PTAC. So what we provide, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and what we provide obviously is businesses with entering into conducting business with all levels of government. That would include city, county, state, and the Fed. We really look at various objectives that we specifically tackle or look at for assisting you as a business. We assist with obtaining government and performing contracts with the federal, state, again, and local governments. We support businesses who are already government contract ready. We also work closely with government agencies, prime contractors, and other partners to provide outreach events, education, and partnership opportunities to the small business community. Our services are absolutely free. There is no cost for our services. We at the PTAC also, right now there's 10 of us. Most of us have all served in the federal government or city, county, or the state. Collectively, I would say we have about 400 to 500 years of experience. We're not old, but we are wise. So the Colorado PTAC also has a statewide presence. Regardless of the location and size of your business, we can assist you. And obviously, we support businesses, not directly individuals, but there are individuals who start business. We also collectively work with other resource partners to make sure that we serve the community at large. So our process is pretty simple. We provide expert, personalized counseling and mentoring. We collaborate and network with our resource partners as well. There's structured trainings that we provide. We have a menu or a platter, if you will, of over 300 different counseling or different classes that we offer that are all free. You can actually just sign up as a PTAC client at www.coloradoptac.org and see and look at all of our classes that we offer as well. Again, it's expert personalized counseling and mentoring. We also connect with government industries to have events and provide events to you as a business owner. And we have nationwide resources, to include my friend here, Stan. So our current activity in the state of Colorado, you'll see the number here. We have on our portfolio about 7,000 clients currently to date. We have, for 2019 and 2020, pushed about $560 million in contracts. We serve our contract or consulting hours over 2,800. Events statewide, over 200. We have conducted most of our events virtually, but we have, as of last March, stepped out and done in person. Yesterday, again, was our first huge in-person event. We'll be doing another one July 19, ladies. So July 19, there will be another one that we'll be advertising, and hopefully you'll all be invited and come and join us. 77% of our clients are SBA, also registered clients. So the 8A clients, the WOSB, EDWSB, HubZone clients, service disabled vet, and veteran owned, they're our clients as well. And you'll see that we serve the entire state of Colorado. So again, our delivery method, individualized business consultation services. We are on-site, we provide on-site company trainings. I serve particularly the I-25 corridor. So my office, I have one in Fort Collins, there's one in Aurora, Colorado Springs, and I also serve Pueblo. So I'm up and down that I-25 corridor. Also, our staff, we have our own staff instructors. I teach as well. Because my expertise in the SBA world, I also assist with the 8A, all of the federal certifications, the Mentor Protege program, joint ventures, all of that. Also solicit and have subject matter expert instructors that provide services to our constituents as well. So we have legal consultation, cybersecurity. We also have proposal writers and accountants that will provide services to you at either a discounted rate. They do some pro bono services as well. We're located, our offices, Colorado Springs is where we're headquartered. We have an office in Aurora, Westminster, Durango, Fort Collins, Golden, and Grand Junction. And I personally have served for the last 20 years the Ute Mountain and the Southern Ute tribe. So I'm very honored to be able to still hold the relationship and do business with both of those tribes as well. Services offered remotely, again, throughout the state or in person. This is some information about how to get in touch with us, various websites, obviously. There's my information there. Our executive directors, Jonathan Vedito, feel free to reach out to him. But we do offer, again, free services to you. I am available. I will be here all day. So if you have any questions, if you'd like to engage, let's talk. That's the end of our presentation.
So next up, we have our export and trade programs, and we have Suzette Nickel. Suzette Nickel is the director of the U.S. Commercial Service Denver's Export Assistance Center. She has been with the U.S. Commercial Service for over 20 years. Suzette works diligently to support the international expansion of Colorado and Wyoming exporters. Before joining the U.S. Commercial Service, Suzette served in the U.S. Army in various positions, providing administrative and logistical support. Suzette has a Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Northern Colorado and a Master's of Business Administration from Webster University. And also we have Hattie Brewer. And Hattie is an export finance manager located at the U.S. Export Assistance Center in Denver. She is part of the SBA's Office of International Trade and its team for the last 20 export finance managers around the country ready to help small business network plan and finance their export. Prior to joining SBA, Patty worked at the Export-Import Bank of the U.S. She worked directly with companies, bankers, and brokers to finance the sale of U.S.-made goods around the world. Patty has served for 25 years as a member of the U.S. Army Reserve.
All right, so Suzette Nickel, I'm with the U.S. Commercial Service, and we're going to talk just briefly about why export and how to get started, or how to grow into additional markets. The importance of this to a U.S. business is the increase in the bottom line for U.S. companies that export can be up to 15%. So companies that export tend to make 15% more annually than companies that are just domestically based. And that has to do with sales cycles. If the if there's a drop in the economic cycle here in the US, maybe one of the markets that you're selling to is kind of in a boom market, right? So we also know that companies that export are 8.5% less likely to go out of business. So that's kind of an interesting statistic. We also know that we can increase our exports using e-commerce channels. So e-commerce to me is one of those great equalizers. You can be a small business in Grand Junction, Durango, anywhere really, in Wyoming, Montana, doesn't matter. If you have a great product and you can get your website set up to handle online sales, you just need to find a way to get those buyers looking at your website and then have a really good plan of how to deliver that. And that can be the challenge because sometimes that delivery that we have through UPS, FedEx, et cetera, here in the US, which seems expensive, can be triple the cost when you put that on a plane to ship it to Europe. And so there's, groups that we work with out of Europe that do fulfillment. So when companies get to a place where they have enough volume, where they can house their goods at a fulfillment center in the Netherlands and they get dispersed from there, there are ways that can be managed. And those are some of the resources that we can help U.S. companies with. But I'm just going to take a step back and talk about U.S. commercial service, briefly who we are, how we help companies. And I think that's important because I like to tell people, this is not Suzette sitting in Denver Googling what is the regulatory requirement for medical devices going into Europe, because you can do that. But what we do have is a network, global network of trade professionals through the U.S. embassies and consulates. We hire local nationals in those foreign markets to work on behalf of U.S. business interests in that country. So if we're talking about selling defense equipment to a foreign government, we have staff in country who have the purpose and the goal to assist that U.S. company make that sale. And that is important because that levels the playing field against our global competitors. If we're talking about defense or aerospace, whatever, and we all know the Chinese, the French, the Germans, right? We have to be able to compete on a global scale, even if we have a really good product. And it's nice to have somebody that's looking out for the small business interest in those countries. So like I mentioned, we have 82 offices in the U.S., more than 75 around the world. So really what we do is work on market access problems, unfair contract competition, meeting the right partners. This is a big thing I'm going to talk about, and getting paid, which of course Patty talked about a little bit. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide because this really gives the perspective of everything we do. So if you're a company that's going to do international business, there's a lot of little fingers that play into that. So we're talking about everything from globalizing your website. Did you know that if you have a 1-800 number on your website that overseas, when someone tries to call that, that's not a legitimate number for them. It's not an 800 number. So when they try to call that, they can't even get through on that line. They need you to have that 303 or 970 number so that they can actually reach you. And one of the things that does is shows them right away that you're not ready to do business in their country because you don't even understand the simplest concept of them getting a hold of you as the business, right? Outsourcing. When does it make sense to outsource? And what do you outsource? You have to make sure that you're keeping control of your intellectual property. You don't want to give away all of your trade secrets because your competition can then take that product, reverse engineer it, and make it into their own. Sell it back into your market and grab your market share here in the U.S. for a lower cost than you can make that for here yourself. We can help with tariffs, the import and export, so import into other countries. Your costs, what's the landed cost of your goods? So we talked briefly about shipping. Shipping costs are going to be more. It costs more to do international business. You get paid more, but it costs more. And I think that Dawn had mentioned how you have to understand where making that sale falls, how much you're actually going to realize on that sale. Your freight costs, documentation, insurance, insuring your shipment. Who has possession and ownership of that shipped item and at what point, because that can affect your bottom line. I mean, we have companies that we work with They're small businesses. If they lose one, $4,000 or $5,000 shipment, that can really affect their bottom line. Exchange rates, and what are the legal implications for their company. That's a lot to think about. Let's just break it down into some kind of easy measurements. The first thing I want to really talk about is, number one, having that company commitment and why that's important. If oftentimes someone in the company is interested in doing international business, either they've read an article, they've traveled, they know somebody who knows somebody that then they maybe want to go to Italy or Spain or wherever, right? But if your senior management or you as the owner aren't committed to the process, that can lead to some issues down the line. So you want to make sure the company's committed and they understand what they're getting themselves into. What's going to be your strategy? I tell companies all the time, you have a business plan. You need to have an international business plan as well if you're going to do this, because it is different. And then product readiness. If you're going into Europe, do you need to have CE mark on your product? If you're selling a medical device, have you done the registration process to get that product into Europe? Just because you have FDA approval doesn't translate. One of the things we do know is if you're developing a product, sometimes companies will go after a CE mark and FDA approval at the same time, because even though the requirements may be stricter in Europe, it's quicker. So you could actually be selling your product faster into Europe than you could right here in the US. And so these are things to consider when you're looking at doing business. So a lot of the people in this room are individuals that speak to companies about doing business. And what is their strategy? Well, in this day and age we live in a global marketplace. Whether you're importing part of your goods or services that go into what you're manufacturing, or whether you're going to export, it's a global market, and you want to make sure that you're grabbing your market share of that. And when your customers that you're talking to are asking, where am I going to find my next buyer? Well, maybe their next buyer is going to be overseas, and they should be talking to our office about how to do that. So it's kind of a checklist. I won't go over the whole thing, but this is some of the work that we help companies do. We want to make sure that they're prepared to do business. So if they get an inquiry on their website and someone asks them, can we buy 1,000 units? Now, if someone asks if they can buy 1 million units, and you've never sold 1 million units in your entire existence, that's a red flag, right? Like, we don't need to spend a lot of time pursuing whether that's legitimate business or not. There's just like all of the scams out there. People try to scam you on international sales as well. But if you do have that inquiry that someone wants to represent your product and it seems legitimate, we can help you verify they're a legitimate buyer. We do that. So say, for example, you get an email from Brazil and they say they're interested in representing your product or your service. We will have the embassy track them down, make sure they're registered to do business, see if we know them, whatever financial or background information we can find, and we'll provide that back to you. Because we don't want you to turn down legitimate business because you don't know how to proceed with winning that deal or signing a contract, or like, what would it even take to do business in Brazil? Is this something I even want to do? Obviously, your product knowledge, that's an area that you're the company, you're going to excel in that, but how does that translate to another country where maybe you have to hire technicians on the ground to do the install and they're not going to speak English, or maybe they speak some English, but how will you manage that? So we kind of walk through that whole process. I like to call it the A to Z of exporting. Any question or issue that companies have, that's what we're here to help them work through. So yeah, here's my thing. Export business plan, gotta have it. It's different. And so you need to be doing things like Patty had mentioned. There's countries and individuals that as a US business, you can't do business with. So there's no need for you to pursue a contract in Syria, Cuba, North Korea, and there's individuals that you can't do business with. And now we're seeing on a daily basis, we have new sanctions against Russia, against the oligarchs, and they have a long reach, right? They don't just have like one company. These are like mega businesses out there that are operating in a lot of different places. And so we want to make sure we're abiding by the US export regulations. And depending on what your product is, if you have a defense-related product, encrypted technology, or some type of product or service that the US government kind of wants to know who's buying, they're going to require that you have a license to export that, because they're tracking who's buying that technology, and they're making sure like North Korea isn't buying any nuclear or whatever type of information that you're selling, right? There's a lot of resources to help with this, and again, so talking to our office, one of the trade specialists in our office, is a really great starting point for making sure that you understand what you need to do for your industry and what countries you would be looking at. So yeah, mechanics of exporting, we kind of hit on this. It's just understanding everything from my market research. Where do I find information about a market, a country in Africa? How do I verify that that's legitimate contact? How do I understand what the regulatory requirements are to ship to that country? Anything, A to Z of exporting. I mean, it's going to be different for every company and every industry. We deal out of our office here, just every type of industry you can imagine, from sporting goods, consumer goods, mining equipment, IT, software, hardware, healthcare, medical devices, medical services, safety, security, defense, green technologies. So really, engineering services, tourism, cultural tourism, you name it, and there anything somebody in the world somewhere is interested in buying or is buying from someone else, right? So identifying your strengths, understanding where you're at as a company. Market research. So I talked a little bit about the networks, and one of the things that we do is these in-country specialists put together country commercial guides. So annually they publish a document that's anywhere from 40 to 60, 80 pages that really highlights what's going on in that country, the political economic environment, how to do business there, the opportunities, the challenges, what the tariff structure looks like, if we have a free trade agreement with that country, how to ship, labeling. Does your product, if you have a consumable product, does it have to be labeled in local language? Since we're the only country not on the metric system, you probably have to have a label that has your product labeled in metric and with that local language. So these are all considerations research that we can provide. What is the regulatory environment? So what does it take to register your product? Who's the regulatory body that oversees that? And we can get you those contacts, what the process looks like, the timeline, approximate cost of going through that process. And then top industry markets, that's if you're aerospace, we have particular research for aerospace, consumer goods, each of the kind of the key agribusiness, et cetera. So this is just, I got a little snapshot from our website where you can see we have everything from learning to export. So there's never been a greater time in the world, as far as I'm concerned, to learn anything you want to learn. Because of COVID, everyone has put all of their content online, and in so many cases, it's free. Trainings that we used to charge $300 or $400 or $500 for, we do weekly, bi-weekly, monthly for free. All the partner organizations that Patty mentioned, everyone offers free training. We have a series coming up on e-commerce. We do these little series called Coffee Chats, where it's just kind of a quick hour of what does e-commerce look like in Europe and what are the key things you need to know. So there's all types of training and education opportunities available for businesses. Research, we have a whole thing on like e-commerce innovation lab where we have a lot of information there. Shipping, logistics, protecting your intellectual property, which is huge. And then if you have a complaint, maybe you did ship somewhere and you didn't get paid, and we can work through the embassy to at least conduct a phone call with that distributor or buyer and ask them, what's going on? Like, are you planning on paying? That really sometimes if you get a call from the U.S. Embassy asking why you didn't pay for products you ordered, sometimes that really prompts them to go ahead and make that payment. So all of this is available on export.gov. We can help you with, who are your competitors in a market? You might not even know what's the best countries for my product. So we can pull based on your NICS code and other codes that we use, who's the top sellers, buyers of that particular product. And one of the strategies we can look at is, do you want to go where everyone else is, or do you want to try one of these smaller markets? Because they're often overlooked by some of the bigger companies because they're going after, volume. where you could go after a market that maybe your item hasn't sold as many units into, and there may be some opportunity there, but we can take a look at analyzing, why that is and what would that work. Demand barriers, maybe no one's in that country because there's a barrier to entry for your product. If it's an 18-month registration process and your products have about a 12 to 24-month lifespan, it's not worth registering, right? And then we also do a lot of work, I think it was mentioned earlier, about a lot of the artisans in the Native community sell through trade shows and trade fairs. Well, a lot of companies in general, that's the way they sell. And so one of the things we've been doing during COVID is a lot of virtual, like online platforms to help companies sell and match up virtually, because they can't go to the trade show that they used to exhibit at in Germany or China, or like wherever they were going, right? And so that can be, I think that's something that may continue on to some extent in the future, virtually, but also we're starting to see it. There's an interest in people getting back in kind of the trade show business. They're starting to ramp up a little bit. Developing contacts. So one of the big things we do is we help you define your sales channel. If you need a distributor in Germany, you tell us, you give us a snapshot of your ideal distributor, and we go out and we identify 5 or 6 distributors that fit that mold, that snapshot, and then we introduce them to you. Right now we're doing that virtually. Previously, pre-COVID, that would be in person. We would set that up. You would fly to Frankfurt or Berlin or whatever city, and you would have a day of prearranged meetings with distributors that met your criteria. So the time to market was greatly diminished by using this type of service. And then financing, I'm not going to go into so much because Patty already covered that, but just to say, like, there's financing options available for companies. They just need to be educated about what works best for their company. So this is really a breakdown of those 4 pillars: the market intelligence, counseling. All of our counseling services are free. Business matchmaking, and trade shows and conference. Yeah, so that's it. So I think the key thing that I would want to leave everyone with is, if you have a question about doing international business, you need to reach out and ask. If you're a business that's operating successfully in the US, and you're like, well, that's not something I don't know if there's opportunity or not, well, now's the time to reach out and start developing a plan. Or maybe it doesn't make sense, and then you'll know, but it's nice to develop that plan in advance, because you don't just identify a distributor in another country overnight. It takes time. If you develop a new sales channel in the US in, say, 30 days, you can expect it to take at least 60 to 90 internationally. So I tell everybody, double or triple your time, double the time to do something, double the time to ship, double the time to get paid. And you have to have that kind of in your planning, but you can double your revenue. So I will leave it on that note. Thank you.
So thank you, Yvette, for including me on today's agenda. I'm really excited to be able to talk about export financing. So after I finish talking, you'll have a better understanding of the SBA's Office of International Trade. I'll talk a little bit about some definitions. I'll talk about some of our export programs and how we can continue this conversation if this is the direction you want to go. So this is the SBA's Office of International Trade. We're a really small part of the Small Business Administration, but we have some very eager teams, and we're broken up into 3 divisions. The first division is the State Trade Expansion Program, which you probably better know as STEP. And here in Colorado, it's managed by the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade. And the STEP grant is very handy for exporters because it helps you offset some of those market development costs that you may be experiencing. It'll help you pay for attending trade shows, translating your websites, or working on some of those compliance issues if you have to get a product ready for, say, the European market or the Japanese market. And then the second division is the International Trade Division, and that's the group I'm a part of. And so like Yvette said, there are 20 of us around the country, and we're kind of your information traffic cops. So if you have a question about financing international trade, I can help you understand what programs are out there, not just with SBA, but I might talk to you a little bit about Exim Bank, or maybe the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, has some programs that might benefit you more. I might also connect you with a lender if that's what you need, or I can connect you with other resource partners. The final division is probably the most handy for many of you, and that's the International Trade Policy Group. And these are the folks who can answer your specific questions and help you resolve problems that are related to some of the trade agreements that the U.S. is a party to. So for example, the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement, the USMCA, it has a special chapter devoted specifically to small businesses, but if you run into some issues selling into Canada or selling into Mexico, I can connect you with that policy group, and we can help you get those questions answered and hopefully the problems resolved. So the SBA is just part of your network. And Elena mentioned many of the resource partners that are out there. You've got us here at the Small Business Administration. You've got Suzette at the Commercial Service. You've got the World Trade Center at Denver. And you've also got the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, as I mentioned earlier, who manage the STEP program. But you've also got the SBDC. You've got Mikasa. You've got SCORE, and you've got Manufacturer's Edge. And so the last four I mentioned, they may not know a lot about or have a lot of resources to help you with international trade, but they can certainly help you with those organic questions that you might have about your small business. So how to improve that marketing plan, how to pivot into e-commerce, or maybe how to put together a safety plan for your employees. So let's talk about eligibility. If you're going to apply for SBA financing, you do need to be a small business, and yes, those standards are changing a little bit as we go. But for right now, basically, if you've got a net income of less than $5 million, you're probably a small business. Now, to apply for SBA's export financing, your company should be in operations for at least a year. Now, sometimes this can be waived based on your company's ownership or key manager's experience. One thing that cannot be waived is that your company has to be majority owned, U.S. citizen, or an individual with legal permanent residency status. So some definitions. Whether you are selling services or a tangible good, it is considered an export. If you're shipping from the U.S., it is an export, and I can help you. Now, I've worked with some companies, and they manufacture their goods overseas and sell those goods directly to their foreign buyers. And they're shipping directly from their foreign manufacturing locations. Those are drop shipments. I cannot help you with those. There are other programs that can. So the SBA's Capline program does support drop shipments. So the important thing is understanding what is the good that you're selling, what is the good or service you're selling. Are you shipping from the U.S., and who is your buyer? Keep an eye on whether or not we are supporting sales to closed countries. Some of those closed countries might be Iran or North Korea. If you're selling into those countries, I can't help you. Also watch out that your buyers aren't sanctioned. So right now there's a lot of talk about Russian and Belarusian entities that are being sanctioned. If you are selling to a sanctioned party, I cannot help you. Bottom line, if you've got a good or a service shipping from the U.S., most times I can help you. Now, just like, and there's a lot of SBA veterans here, so it's kind of nerve-wracking to be here in front of so many esteemed former colleagues. But if you need working capital or trade finance, the export financing can help you. So it's no different from SBA's regular domestic financing. All we're doing is we're helping you and we're supporting that international business that you're looking at. So there are 3 export finance programs. The first one is Export Express, and that's the smallest and the easiest of the 3 loan programs. It's got a $500,000 lending cap, and it's usually used by newer exporters or exporters that are pivoting to a new market. The other 2 loan programs are larger loan programs. They have $5 million limits, and usually you're a more experienced exporter coming in to look at those programs. Usually you have an established book of business that a lender is comfortable with. Let's talk first about Export Express. Export Express is extremely flexible. So if you need a line of credit for working capital, or you need to purchase equipment, or you're setting up term loans, you can set it up either way. Another nifty use of the Export Express is to support standby letters of credit. So if you've got a buyer who is mandating you to set up a performance bond or a warranty bond, and you need to set up a standby letter of credit for that bond, typically your lender will require 100% cash collateral. If you set up that standby letter of credit under the Export Express, you only need 25% cash collateral. Really helps you with your working capital. So I set up a couple of examples. We'll go through them really quickly. This is a company that was exporting craft beer overseas, and they needed help paying for some of those increasing freight costs and helping them pay for some inventory, some commodity products. So they set up a $100,000 line of credit under the Export Express. And it was very, very helpful. It helped them manage their working capital a little bit better. Now, one of the ways the lender used the program to help them mitigate some of the risks is they also required that the foreign accounts receivable be insured by Ex-Im Bank. So there are many times where SBA and Ex-Im Bank work cooperatively together. So this is the second transaction. This is a company, it was a food manufacturer with increasing sales into Canada and to Mexico. And these guys, instead of setting up their loan as a line of credit, they set up a term loan to purchase equipment. So you see how in one case we used it as a line of credit to help with working capital. In the second case, we're using it as a term loan to help them purchase equipment. Now this helped them to manage their supply chain a little bit better. They were able to produce faster, and as a result, their revenues started to increase. And then this is our final example. In this example, the exporter used the Export Express to not only cover some of their working capital, they also used the Export Express to help them refinance some of their existing debt, which gave them lower interest rates and longer payment terms. The second loan transaction is the export working capital, and this program essentially collateralizes your foreign accounts receivable and your foreign purchase orders. So essentially what you do is you set up a line of credit with your lender, you bring in your foreign purchase orders, and you can receive up to 80% of the value of that purchase order. 60, 90, 120 days later when your buyer pays you, you pay down your line of credit and you start all over with another purchase order. So this is an example of an oil and gas company out of Houston, and they were getting more and more purchase orders out of the US. And these purchase orders could be as much as $1 million. Now they were facing the classic example where the company had to pay their suppliers immediately, but they would not be paid by their buyers for 90 to 120 days. So they were running into a cash crunch. So what they were able to do was set up a $2 million export working capital product with their lender, bring in a signed purchase order to their lender, and receive an 80% advance on that purchase order, which meant they walked out of the bank with $800,000 to use to manufacture whatever product it was or whatever service they were selling. The second transaction is a food exporter. And what the lender did here was they set it up into two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. So the phase 1 was where they were advancing against foreign purchase orders. And eventually, once the lender became comfortable with the company and its ability to perform, they transitioned into advancing against accounts receivable. And our third example is a company that was, they were a Dallas-based wholesaler, and they were also facing that classic cash crunch where they had to pay their suppliers immediately and their buyers would pay them in 60 or 90 days. So here you see they were advancing against the foreign accounts receivable. And the owners were providing their personal guarantees, which is standard to all SBA financing. Now, one of the crucial things about the Export Working Capital Program is that it is monthly, it is monitored monthly, which makes where you provide information on your foreign buyers, and your lender will take that information and he's audited by the SBA. And the final example is one of a standby letter of credit. And this is where the exporter was selling into Chile, and all they needed was a payment guarantee, so a standby letter of credit to cover a payment guarantee, because their Chilean buyer was paying 50% up front. So this Export Working Capital Program, this transaction was only in effect for 90 days, just for as long as it took to get the goods shipped and the final payment made. The last transaction is the international trade loan, and this is a standard term loan. There's no difference to this aside from the fact that it's supporting your international business. Now, this is a commodity exporter out of Montana. Now, as you'll notice, they faced the same question that the other companies were facing. They paid their suppliers up front, and they weren't being paid for 90 days by their buyers, so they had that cash gap. But they opted instead to do an international trade loan, which gave them permanent working capital with a 10-year repayment. And this second company was doing very similar. It had a tranche. It had 2 tranches. So the lender I guess they were doing a litmus test to make sure that this company could perform on its international obligations. So they set up their first international trade loan, they set it up to refinance, and then they'll eventually do a second international trade loan once they're confident in the company's ability to perform. So if you're interested in learning more about international trade finance, there are upcoming seminars, there's always something going on, but you can also go here to Trade Tools for International Trade. That's through the Small Business Administration website. You can go to our LinkedIn page to see training schedule for upcoming trainings, and you can also go to our YouTube page to see recordings of previous seminars. Or you can just call me, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
In closing, thank you so much for being here today and hanging in there with us. And again, I want to thank our staff, Aaron, Sky, Amber, and also a shout out to Sky Bear Media. They are a native-owned media company, and they come in and help us out with all of our videos and our Native Edge Institutes. So have a great afternoon, and thank you so much. And keep an eye on our website at www.ncaied.org. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.